Revenge with Karen.
I need that certificate today, not next quarter. I snapped into the phone, pinching the bridge of my nose as the third regulatory body in 2 hours put me on hold. Again. The damn fluorescence above my cube hummed like a migraine with a hangover, and the only coffee left in the office kitchen tasted like a lawsuit waiting to happen. It was Monday, 8:42 a.m., and I was already juggling 3 jurisdictions, 2 pending audits, 1 junior analyst who thought FINRA was a Pokemon. Then I heard it, that voice. Ethan's. Morning, Karen, still wrestling with the gray tape. His teeth flashed like a Dollar Tree Ryan Gosling as he strutted past my desk, sipping something with oat milk and superiority. You know, he added, AI's gonna eat that job in 5 minutes. Red tape's the old world. We're pivoting agile now. I smiled the way women smile when they're imagining murder. And yet here I am, making sure you don't land in federal prison for a licensing error, I said flatly, turning back to my screen. He didn't hear me, or pretended not to. Ethan never really looked at me, he looked through me. 12 years in this company, and I was still a folding chair in his TED Talk fantasy. He disappeared into the glass conference room where he liked to draw flowcharts about synergy. I turned back to the task at hand, cross-referencing the renewal schedule for our NY, CA, and Singapore licenses against the upcoming $1B Series D investor review. The filings had to be spotless. Any delay, any missing signature, and we'd lose 6 months of expansion runway. And guess who every compliance certificate had my name on? Not Ethan. Not even the CFO. Me. My inbox pinged. Another reminder from the Colorado Division of Banking. If our attestation wasn't updated before EOD, our lending authority would be flagged. I sent it off, triple-checked the timestamp, and logged the confirmation into my personal system, the one I kept separate, off-network, the one no one else even knew existed. Now, I know most of you are probably listening while you're working, cooking, or silently judging your coworkers from behind your monitors. Totally fair. But if you're enjoying this little descent into regulatory hell and corporate backstabbing, take a second to hit that like button and maybe subscribe. It's free, unlike Ethan's MBA, and it really helps the team keep digging up these stories for you. Back to hell. The new intern, Blake or Brock, or some other monosyllabic marketing hire, leaned into my cubicle and whispered, who's gonna sign off on the Nevada crypto filings if you're out sick? Don't worry, I said without looking up. I've already built a succession plan. Lie, no one in this company had the clearance, the certifications, or the stomach for what I did. Regulatory work wasn't flashy. It didn't get you shout-outs at all-hands meetings or invites to rooftop cocktails. But without it, this place couldn't legally operate across half its markets. Ethan thought he was the brain. The CEO thought he was the spine. But me, I was the blood type. Around 10:15, I finished uploading our biannual compliance disclosures. E-signed with my unique credentials backed by a state-issued bond, tied not to the company, but to me, personally. That distinction would become very important soon. I took a sip of the sludge that passed for coffee and checked the office Slack. Ethan had just posted a meme of a dinosaur with the caption Karen's regulatory methods be like. Rower means I love bureaucracy. 2 laughing emojis and 1 from his dad. Real class act. I minimized the window. My heart didn't race. I didn't clench my jaw. 12 years here had worn my outrage smooth. I just made another note in my private logbook and closed the tab. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I opened a folder titled In Case of Idiots. Scanned the first page, verified the dates, and smiled, quietly. Just in case. It started with an Outlook invite titled Quick Sync, leadership alignment from a woman in HR I'd never spoken to. A time no sane adult would schedule a meeting. 11:03 a.m. Not 11, not 11:15. 11:03, corporate precision masking a hatchet job. I clicked accept without comment and turned off my desk heater. By 11:01, I was outside the small conference room near the CEO's office. It still smelled like dry erase markers and someone's bad decision to microwave fish last week. I stepped inside and saw the theater already set. CEO at the head of the table, paper in hand, expression unreadable. Ethan, lounging across from him like a smug cat who just discovered PowerPoint. And HR, Jessica, I think, tight smile, nervous eyes, a clipboard like a shield. Karen, the CEO said, not looking up. Thanks for coming. I sat, reviewing operational redundancies and alignment against future goals. He began, Reading straight from the page like this was amateur night at a hostage videotaping. In light of our strategic realignment and move toward agile structures, we've made the difficult decision to sunset some legacy functions. Effective immediately, Ethan cut in, grinning. You're being freed up for other opportunities. Freed up. Like I was a hard drive with too many archived memories. My face didn't change. I didn't blink. I've been yelled at by auditors, grilled by lawyers, and once told by a Canadian regulator that my formatting made her physically ill. This was performance theater by people who didn't even know what they were cutting. We'll be revamping regulatory through automation and vendor integration. Ethan continued. Modern solutions, more scalable. I glanced at the stack of papers in front of the CEO. My performance reviews were probably still warm from the printer. All marked exceeds expectations. Not that it mattered. Ethan wasn't looking to evaluate, he was looking to erase. Jessica slid a small envelope across the table like she was passing me a note in 3rd grade. This includes your severance details, COBRA options, and contacts if you have any questions. No handshake, no farewell email. Just a badge, a box, an exit path lined with clickbait about transformational change. I took the envelope. Who's taking over my filings? I asked. Ethan shrugged. Legal has templates. We'll figure it out. Templates. For a system built over a decade from scratch, adjusted for 6 jurisdictions, and calibrated to pass 3 separate international audits. They really believed it was plug and play. I stood slowly. Took one last look at the room. The CEO was already checking his phone. Ethan had moved on to playing with his smartwatch. Jessica wouldn't meet my eyes. My voice was calm. Good luck with the Nevada license renewal. Clock resets in 12 days. No grace period. That got a flinch from Jessica, not Ethan. I turned, walked back to my desk. My coworkers peered over their monitors like meerkats sensing a disturbance in the savannah. I nodded once and started packing. 1 mug, 1 framed photo from a compliance conference in Lisbon, 3 books they'd never read. The logbook came last. Before I closed it, I flipped to the last page and wrote in neat block letters, fired with cause, legacy function. Impact to regulatory continuity, catastrophic. I added the date, the names in the room, and a note that the Singapore office had not yet received their updated credentials because I hadn't submitted them. And now I wouldn't. The logbook went into the folder into my bag, placed my badge on the desk and walked out silent. No tears, no dramatic speeches, no cathartic smashing of company property, just clean, brutal exit velocity. They thought they were streamlining. They had no idea they'd just amputated their own spine. The cardboard box was too small for 12 years of quiet miracles. But that's the thing about invisible work. Most of it doesn't take up space. No trophies, no plaques. Just folders, worn-down keys, memories that flickered across my mind like static as I packed. I wrapped the Lisbon photo in a microfiber cloth. That trip was 2 years ago, Compliance Summit. I'd stayed behind one night, skipped the gala dinner, and spent 6 hours parsing a clause in our multi-country vendor agreement. Found a loophole that would have made us liable for $4.2 million in the case of a digital asset audit. Plugged it, documented it, quietly. No applause. Gala got a photo spread in the internal newsletter. My find? 3 fewer lines in a litigation budget. I slid my mug into the box, black ceramic, chipped at the handle, with white block letters. I have the receipts. It was a gag gift from a junior associate after I got the Utah fine dropped from $250,000 to a written warning. The state regulator had missed a clause. I hadn't, but I let the kid take the credit. Needed it more than I did. Behind me, footsteps, whispered voices. Wait, who's signing off on the Series D filings now? That was Karen's thing, right? Did someone else get credentialed? A pause. I don't think anyone did, they trailed off. I didn't turn around. I just placed my stapler on top of the books and smiled. The desk next to mine was empty, had been since Greg left last spring. He'd been one of the few who noticed what I did, noticed in the real sense, not the patronizing "wow, you're organized" sense. Once, during a quarterly panic, he asked why I always seemed calm. I told him the truth. I plan like everything's already on fire. That way, when the flames come, I'm just walking through smoke. He laughed. 2 weeks later, his department was dissolved. He sent me a message before his exit, "Your firewall's coming. Hope they're ready." Guess not. I picked up my mouse, my own, brought from home. Not because it was ergonomic, but because the scroll wheel made a soft clicking noise I liked. Little things matter when you're reading 700-page filings, at 2 a.m. trying to stop your company from committing accidental fraud. Flashback hit me. 2 years ago, Christmas Eve, I caught a decimal point misplacement in a 1099 report that would have flagged us for criminal underreporting. Sent a fix. No one even remembered I worked that night, except the CFO. He sent me a thank you email that accidentally CC'd his ex-wife. I shook the memory off. HR had left a branded folder on my desk. Exit resources. Inside, login for Cobra, 2 discount codes for therapy apps, and a flyer titled Life After Layoff, Finding Purpose Again. I dropped it in the trash without opening it. One last drawer, my emergency chocolate bar and a backup charger. Underneath, the file I'd labeled just in case. Handwritten notes, flowcharts, a printed email chain from 5 years ago that confirmed my unique license authority on the California financial bond. No one else ever followed up on that. Ethan certainly hadn't. I slipped it into the side of my bag, then paused. That quiet moment when the space you've inhabited begins to feel haunted. Like your ghost is already sitting there, typing away, while you stand on the outside looking in. A junior compliance rep, Sarah, I think, passed by. Her eyes darted to my box, then back to her feet. Karen, I didn't know this was happening. It's okay, I said, and I meant it. She was too new to know what was coming. She lingered. Do you think someone will step in for the audit next week? I gave her a small smile. They'll try. That was enough. She looked sick. As I zipped up my bag, a strange calm settled in my chest. Not numbness, clarity, like the click of a final puzzle piece locking into place. They thought they'd cleared space, but they'd pulled out a keystone. I walked one last circuit of the floor, not saying goodbye, just observing. They didn't know it yet, but the countdown had already started. The office didn't have a name on the door, just frosted glass and a buzz entry. You had to know it was there. The kind of place that whispered importance instead of shouting it. Downtown, tucked between a ramen shop and a yoga studio where people did headstands for Instagram. I pressed the buzzer once, a beat. Then the latch clicked open. Marla hadn't changed much. Still wore blazers like armor and boots like she planned to kick down the next SEC raid. She'd been a VP of risk at a major firm before she quit, went dark, and started building something beneath the radar. A competitor, but smarter, smaller, deadlier. We'd kept in touch, always off the record. Lunches with no paper trails. Dinners that started with compliance jokes and ended with what-ifs. Today wasn't for small talk. She glanced up from her laptop, raised one brow, and said, "So, you finally burned the place down?" I dropped the folder on her desk. Not a thick one, just 28 pages, but they hit like a wrecking ball. Her eyes scanned the first few lines. Her lips curled. They're out of compliance in 3 jurisdictions. Technically 4, I replied, sitting across from her. But the 4th hasn't filed the update yet. Once they do, it'll trigger a cascade. Marla leaned back, whistled low. "Jesus, Karen, you're good. They're sloppy," I corrected. "I'm just precise." She tapped the edge of the folder. "The Nevada filings are 6 days overdue, 8 by COB standards. But they don't know that because Ethan shut off my account before the reminder system sent the final flag." Marla's grin widened. "Honey, they're so screwed." We sat in silence for a moment. The only sound was the low hum of the servers in the back and the ticking of her analog wall clock, one of those ironic startup relics pretending not to care about time while tracking every second like a sniper. "I'm assuming this isn't a friendly warning," she said. "No," I replied. "This is a job interview, but with one condition." She tilted her head, curious. "I want to be in the room," I said. "The licenses fall apart." Marla barked a laugh. "You want front row seats to the detonation?" "I built that house," I said quietly. "I want to hear the beams crack." She didn't flinch. "Then let's talk terms." That was Marla. No moral panic, no faux sympathy. She understood what most people never did. Regulatory work wasn't just red tape. It was bone marrow. Rip it out without a transplant, and the body dies screaming. She skimmed more of the documents while I poured 2 cups of black coffee from the French press near the window. No oat milk here. No smug Ethan energy. Just caffeine and consequences. "You're naming them here," she said, tapping one of the highlighted lines, "on record. They deserve to be named." She sipped. "Any blowback, not if you move fast, and not if you let me rebuild the compliance from scratch. My way this time. No shortcuts, no marketing department buzzwords pretending to be legal strategy." Her eyes glinted. "You're saying you want a full carve-out? I want a clean lab. You want to challenge them. We'll need a system that actually holds up." She closed the folder. "Then you'll need an assistant." I smirked. "I know someone. Junior compliance rep. Good instincts, a little green, Marla nodded slowly. Bring her. Day 1 is Monday. We clinked coffee mugs like champagne flutes. No celebration, just acknowledgement. Outside, the winter sun was low, throwing long shadows across the pavement like caution tape. Inside, the air shifted, like pressure dropping before a storm. For 12 years, I'd been the one holding up the ceiling, patching holes behind the scenes while execs toasted innovation. They forgot I had the blueprints. Now, I had the leverage. And the countdown had officially started. Ethan strutted into the weekly ops sink like a man who'd just discovered fire, and assumed he'd invented electricity, too. His Patagonia vest was zipped halfway over a vintage band tee, equal parts MBA cosplay and startup cosplay, somehow managing to disrespect both. He flipped open his laptop with a flourish and beamed at the room of increasingly pale department heads. All right, people, he said, clapping his hands. Let's keep this crisp. We're lean now. Regulatory's automated. No more bloated legacy systems. Compliance is now a click, not a department. Silence. Janice from legal blinked twice. Sorry, Ethan, did you say automated? Yup, he said, popping the P. We've onboarded 2 SAW vendors. Real-time dashboards, smart templates, AI-enabled jurisdiction matching. No more bottlenecks. Janice frowned, clearly doing the mental math on what that would mean for license renewals, cross-jurisdiction reporting, and oh yeah, federal liability. Has anyone spoken with Karen? She asked cautiously. Her logs and procedures were specific and bonded. Ethan waved a hand like he was swatting a gnat. Karen's emails shut down. She left. She didn't leave a manual. That's kind of the point. Out with the old, in with the scalable. The new intern might have been Connor, maybe Carter, half raised a hand. Sorry, just one question, do we, need to refile anything now that the signatory changed? I remember something about person-bound credentials in the Nevada folder. Ethan rolled his eyes so hard you could hear it. Dude, it's just paperwork. Legal will file a notice. It's not like regulators sit around waiting to cancel licenses because someone updated their email footer. Actually, Janice began, but he cut her off. We've got bigger things to focus on. The Series D investor call is Thursday. It's what matters. He tapped the screen and pulled up a deck titled Next Gen Compliance, from bottleneck to breakthrough. The first slide showed a stick figure crossing out a pile of paper with a big red X. The second slide showed a green check mark over a dashboard UI that looked suspiciously like a Figma mockup. Ethan turned to the group, all radiant enthusiasm. The investors prepping Q and on our Asia expansion, cross-border compliance, and EU data strategy. Field it all. Just bullet me the jargon so I can weave it into the pitch. Janice's jaw clenched. Ethan, that investor has a legal team, a real one. They're going to want actual documentation, not just buzzwords. He smiled like a man who'd watched half of one TED talk and felt ready to chair the UN. That's why we have smart people like you, Janice. He didn't see the way her eye twitched. Meanwhile, somewhere deep in the system, Trigger was quietly failing. The Nevada license hadn't been updated because no one had Karen's logins. The Singapore office was running on expired certs. Colorado had sent an email flagging a missed confirmation. No one read it. Karen's inbox was a black hole now, shut off. No forwarding, no backup. Legal tried to call her. The line rang twice, then a robotic voice. This number has been disconnected or is no longer in service. Someone from IT helpfully offered. She wiped her local drives when she left. Guess she didn't want to leave clutter. In the break room, Sarah, the junior compliance rep, sat staring into her tea, hands clasped like a woman praying to a god who only responds in audits. Do you think we're okay? Another analyst asked her. Sarah didn't answer. She just quietly opened the Nevada filing binder again and reread the clause Karen had highlighted in yellow 2 months ago. 3:11 p.m., the investors' liaison emailed requesting pre-call documentation for the Thursday briefing. Updated bondholder certificates, proof of active signatory authority, and jurisdictional license compliance for all entities touching U.S. or EU financial data. The subject line was plain. Required compliance docs for Series D. Urgent. Ethan didn't open it until after dinner. When he did, he forwarded it to legal with a single line. Can we just PDF them something that looks official? Janice didn't reply. She just started quietly updating her resume. The boardroom looked like it belonged on a Netflix show about billionaires, glass walls, matte black fixtures, carbon-filtered air that smelled vaguely of ambition and disinfectant. A 30-foot monitor stretched across one side of the room, split between a PowerPoint presentation and a grainy live feed of a conference room in Singapore, where the investor delegation sat like a row of chess grandmasters behind silver MacBooks and inscrutable expressions. Ethan stood at the head of the table, arms wide, voice syrupy smooth. And that's why our pivot to embedded finance in the Asia-Pacific region is not just logical, but inevitable. We've got the numbers, we've got the traction, and we've got the scalability. The deck behind him slid to a slide labeled Q2 forecast. Cross-border expansion, projections with graphs that curved skyward like prayers. The CFO, Mitchell, sat 3 chairs down, checking his notes with the calm of a man who'd read them for the first time during the elevator ride up. Legal was there too, Janice, lips tight, hands folded in a white-knuckled prayer formation. The Singapore lead, a woman named Eliza Tan, nodded politely from the screen. He didn't speak right away. She let the pause stretch just long enough to remind them who held the checkbook. Then, "Thank you, Mr. Hargrove." That was energetic. "Before we proceed with final diligence, I have one clarification." Ethan smiled like a game show host. "Of course. Our counsel had one question regarding the cross-licensing structure that supports your USEU operations," she said, flipping a page. "Is the regulatory bond for those jurisdictions still held under Miss K. Rothwell?" A tiny, almost imperceptible twitch in Ethan's eye. Mitchell turned slowly toward Legal, then to Ethan, then back to Eliza. "She's transitioned out," Mitchell said, each word carefully detached from the last, like they were being examined for defects. Eliza's gaze didn't shift. "Understood. So who currently holds her regulatory bond status?" Silence. It hit the room like a silent gas leak. No one moved, but suddenly the oxygen felt thin. Ethan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Janice spoke, finally. Though the bonds in question were person-specific, they're non-transferable without reapplication through each state and international authority. Eliza frowned slightly. "So, to confirm, you currently do not have an active bondholder for your USEU financial compliance." Ethan jumped in, trying to smile it away. "Well, I mean the systems are in place. The automation's running. This is more of a clerical technicality, not a material gap." Across the screen, a man in a gray suit leaned forward and whispered something to Eliza. She nodded once, then looked back into the camera. "Without that bondholder, your structure is operating in legal gray zones across multiple jurisdictions. That's not clerical. That's existential." The room turned colder. Mitchell cleared his throat. "We've initiated efforts to, assign new signatories. It's in process." "And in the meantime," she asked. Another whisper from the Singapore side. Eliza's tone remained calm, but something sharp edged into her words. "We've also noted that your Nevada license lapsed 9 days ago, and your Singapore-Delaware disclosures do not appear in MAS's updated register. Can you confirm who filed those updates?" No one spoke. Eliza leaned back, "Because our counsel couldn't locate them," which suggests they were either missed or never submitted. The CEO, seated at the far end of the table like a statue, exhaled sharply through his nose. His jaw clenched. He hadn't said a word all meeting. Now he finally looked at Ethan. Eliza's voice, gentler now, cut through the tension like a scalpel. "I was under the impression Miss Rothwell had built the backbone of your regulatory infrastructure." "She was," Janice said quietly. "You let her go without transition." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded, dense. Eliza closed the file gently. "That's all for now. We'll reconvene after our legal team reviews the implications." The screen went dark. No goodbyes, no handshakes, just absence. Ethan slowly turned toward the CEO, color draining from his face. It's fine. We can refile. We've got," the CEO held up a hand. Not a slap, not a shout, just one flat palm in the air. Ethan shut up. In the corner, Janice pulled up her phone. Karen's name was still there in her contacts. She didn't press it, yet. The email came at 7:04 a.m., Singapore time, subject line, "Immediate compliance review triggered, U.S., regulatory bond discontinuity." By 7:16, Eliza Tan's legal team had issued a formal halt on all forward movement of the Series D round. By 7:22, internal channels at HQ were a digital war zone. 3 licenses, Nevada, California, and Delaware, had automatically tripped into pending audit status. Colorado sent a notice of regulatory absence, and one particularly cranky regulator in Jersey had already added a comment on the public record. No record of legal signatory found. Operations halted pending investigation. That last one hit the newswire by 8:01. In the executive suite, the morning meeting was supposed to be celebratory, investor interest secured, Series D locked in, and Ethan's face one more step closer to Fast Company's young innovators to watch. Instead, they were staring at a giant screen displaying red error boxes. Regulatory portals, unauthorized signatory, jurisdictional licensing, pending audit, bond verification, inactive. Janice stood with her arms crossed, face pale, jaw clenched. This can't be happening, Ethan muttered, hands on his head. We filed everything. We onboarded the vendor. I saw the dashboards. The dashboards were mock-ups. Janice snapped. We told you. Multiple times. Why didn't someone tell me this bond was person-specific? Ethan barked, turning on her like a wounded animal looking for something to bite. Mitchell, the CFO, was still seated, staring at the wall like it might offer forgiveness. He said slowly. She was the one who told us. No one responded. In the silence, the IT lead appeared in the doorway, face white as printer paper. We've been asked to suspend all interstate lending activity until we prove regulatory continuity. That's 3 states. Ops just confirmed that our payment systems are auto-freezing anything connected to them. Ethan's voice cracked. What the hell does that mean? It means, Janice said, picking up her bag, you're shut down. Across town, in a quiet office with no logo on the door, Karen sat at a small wooden table with a chipped tea mug in hand. Marla had just set down a plate of bagels. Neither of them touched them. Karen's laptop screen was a patchwork of alerts, regulatory feeds, license verification dashboards, and a private backdoor interface she'd built years ago to monitor flags in real time. 3 red flags were now 5, then 7. She took another sip. Ruibos, still hot. Marla leaned over her shoulder. You seeing this? Karen nodded. They've triggered federal redundancy audits. Oh my God. Karen's expression didn't change. That was always going to happen once Delaware went dark. Nevada's failure was the spark. Delaware's the accelerant. Colorado will call within the hour. They are so, Marla caught herself, almost laughing. Ethan's probably peeing in his Patagonia vest. Karen didn't reply. She was watching the system refresh. Watching the structure she built collapse exactly as predicted. Not in rage, not with fire, but with precision. On screen, a new notification. USEU data transfer review initiated. All cross-border activity frozen. She clicked it open. Read it once and smiled. Back at HQ, Ethan had torn off his vest and was pacing the boardroom like a malfunctioning Roomba. We need to call her, he said. Right now, get her back, offer her something. We'll fix this. Janice arched one brow. Call who? Karen. Rothwell. Whatever her, call her. She doesn't work here anymore, Janice said. Remember? Ethan froze. The CEO stood silently at the window, looking out over the city like it might offer redemption. His hands were clasped behind his back. His voice, when it came, was low and hollow. Get her on the phone. IT chimed in from the hallway. We tried. Her emails shut down. Phone disconnected. No forwarding. Ethan looked at Janice. Legal, she left no transition file. No contacts. No handoff. She walked out with everything she built locked in her head. Another silence. Longer this time. Heavier. Then Mitchell muttered something under his breath. Ethan turned, wild-eyed. What? I said. Mitchell looked up finally, eyes haunted. You fired the one person who told us this would happen. In the corner, someone's phone buzzed again. Another audit. Another freeze. Outside the glass walls of the boardroom, the company's name was still lit up in neon. By noon, regulators would be using it as a punchline. The first outage report hit at 9:03 a.m. It came from a mid-sized lender in Reno, small account, but loud. Their systems flagged an incomplete authorization certificate during a routine ACH batch. The transaction failed. Then the next one. Then 41 more. Their compliance lead called HQ in a rage, demanding answers. By 9:15, 5 more clients reported identical errors. 9:22, the enterprise helpline went to a recorded message. We're currently experiencing higher than normal call volume. That was corporate speak for, we've lost control. Inside HQ, the walls of the executive suite echoed with 100 simultaneous disasters. Phones rang nonstop, alarms pinged on every dashboard, and someone from Risk was sobbing into their keyboard. We have clients down in 3 states. Someone shouted across the floor. Payments aren't settling. In legal, Janice was fielding 2 calls at once, one from a regulator in California demanding to know why the licensee on record no longer existed, and one from a furious institutional client who just discovered their cross-border fund transfer had been frozen midstream. She put both on hold and typed 3 words into Slack: "I'm resigning." Then she logged out, stood up, walked out of the room, and never looked back. Meanwhile, Ethan was in full meltdown. Sweat bled through his shirt. He had 3 browsers open, one with Karen's old LinkedIn, another with her outdated cell number, and a third filled with Google searches like how to reverse regulatory bond failure and urgent state-level compliance recovery no signatory. His hands shook as he redialed her number for the 5th time. Ring. Ring. Then, "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." He stared at the screen, blinking. Desperation turned him to text. He opened iMessage, typed out, "Karen, I'm sorry. Please, we need to talk. I'll do whatever it takes. Come back, please." He hit send. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. 10 seconds later, a block notification flashed across his screen. "You can no longer message this recipient." He stared at it like it had physically slapped him. Then he dropped the phone, turned to Mitchell. "Find her, call her lawyer, find someone. Offer her equity, cash. I don't care." Mitchell didn't move. Across the table, the head of engineering said quietly, "This wasn't a system error. This was a structural failure." "You think I don't know that?" Ethan shouted. The CEO sat in his corner chair, staring down at the table like it had personally betrayed him. His tie was crooked. His hands were limp. He hadn't spoken in 30 minutes. Finally, he muttered, almost inaudible, "What have we done?" No one answered, because they all knew. Karen hadn't left a mess. She'd simply stopped cleaning up theirs. Somewhere across town, Karen stood in the quiet lobby of Marla's office, phone in hand, watching the chaos unfold from a private dashboard coded in her own syntax. Freeze alerts, audit flags. A sudden flurry of IP hits on her old credentials, panic logins, attempts to access systems that no longer answered to anyone in that building. Marla walked up behind her with 2 coffees. "Calling your old number," she said, smirking. "I know, blocking them all, just Ethan. Let the rest marinate." Karen took the coffee and sipped. Marla tilted her head. "You okay?" Karen nodded once. "This isn't revenge. What is it then?" She looked out the window where the city carried on, oblivious to the silent implosion unfolding a few blocks away. "Balance," she said. Behind her, another alert flashed on screen. "Urgent inquiry. Department of Financial Institutions. Immediate response requested." Karen didn't blink. She just smiled. The emergency call came at dawn, before the market bell, before the East Coast had wiped the sleep from its eyes. The Singapore investor had demanded a virtual meeting with the full executive team, the board, and legal present. Not optional, not reschedulable. When someone asked for a prep doc, the reply came back cold. "You won't need one. You need a witness." 7:59 a.m., the boardroom filled again, same glass walls, same chairs. But now the air felt like it had been vacuum-sealed in dread. No croissants, no catered coffee, just silence and the smell of too much cologne trying to cover too much fear. Ethan adjusted his collar 3 times. Mitchell wiped his glasses on a tie that was already stained. Janice's old chair sat empty, a monument to foresight. The screen lit up. Eliza Tan's face appeared, calm, elegant, terrifying in its stillness. Behind her sat 3 lawyers, 2 monitors showing live regulatory dashboards, and a single yellow folder that somehow radiated menace. She began without preamble. "Before we address the investor freeze, I need clarification. Is it true you fired the only person who held active legal authority over your USCU structure?" The CEO opened his mouth, but Ethan cut in. "We didn't fire her for that. We didn't know." Liza raised one hand. Ethan stopped mid-sputter. "I don't care why you fired her. I care that you did, and that no one on this call realized what she actually was." Mitchell cleared his throat. "We've since reconsidered. We've reached out." "And what did Miss Rothwell say?" Eliza asked. The CEO, gray and slumped like a suit with no bones left in it, spoke finally. "We've offered her a full reinstatement. With title, retroactive equity, discretionary budget, whatever she needs." There was a knock on the boardroom door. Ethan turned. The admin opened it halfway. "Courier," she whispered, eyes wide, for the board. A man in a neutral jacket stepped in and laid a thick envelope on the center of the table. No expression, no words, he left as silently as he came. The CEO reached for it with the hesitation of a man defusing a bomb. He slid the papers out. "Read the first page." His face didn't change, not at first. But then he swallowed, hard, and kept reading. Ethan leaned over. "What is it?" He turned the letter around. At the top, formal declination of offer to rejoin. Below that, a second document, stamped and signed across 5 states. Transfer of regulatory bondholder authority and licensing rights. Entity name, KR Compliance Systems, LLC, Karen's new firm. Attached, a confirmation from the Department of Financial Institutions, recognizing the entity as the new legal signatory for all operations currently frozen under the prior structure. Eliza's expression didn't flicker, but her tone warmed. "Well then," she said, "that clears that up." She looked directly into the camera. "Please inform Miss Rothwell that we will be moving our compliance contracts to her new firm effective immediately. I look forward to working with her team." The screen blinked off. Nobody moved. CEO lowered the letter like it had physically aged him 10 years. Ethan stood frozen, mouth slightly open. She took everything." "No," the CEO said quietly, eyes fixed on nothing. "She didn't take it. You handed it to her." Then a voice came from the doorway. "Actually," Karen said, stepping inside, calm as snowfall, "you handed it to me when you told me to pack my desk." She wasn't there to negotiate. She wasn't there to gloat. She stood tall, composed, flawless in a navy blazer that made Ethan look like a child trying on business clothes. She placed a business card on the table. "Use that line if you need expedited filings. We answer within 1 business hour." Then she turned and walked out. The room stayed silent long after the click of her heels disappeared down the marble hall. Because no one had ever imagined the quiet woman in the corner, the one who never raised her voice, who never demanded attention, would become the one holding the match, the kerosene, and the deed to the structure they thought they built without her. She hadn't burned it down. She simply took the foundation with her when she left. Thanks for joining the fun, you office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's make your former coworkers sweat.